To love more. Around 6 a.m. each morning, Joe wakes up like clockwork to tend to his sick wife, Peggy. Joe and Peggy have been married for over 50 years. They met at church, fell in love after war, and were married 6 weeks later. They started a family in Beaumont, ran a mom and pop store, and served their church and community. They lived a beautiful, simple life. I say lived because it is hard to consider Peggy's current situation a life. Peggy has Lewy Body Dementia, one of the most unpredictable, rapidly declining forms of dementia. She has almost lost all cognitive abilities. She can barely think, move, speak, or remember. It's heartbreaking. Despite this, Joe not only loves her just as much, if not more, but he vowed to pick up what she could no longer carry. Joe starts his morning early. Once he is up and out of bed, he crosses the room to Peggy's corner, where she is tucked into a hospital bed in the same position he left her 6 hours prior. He hugs her worn, tired body, kissing her gently with his soft whisper, "Good morning, my love." While she doesn't physically move or verbally respond, her mind imprisoned by disease, the entire room feels her soul intertwining with his and the abundance of bliss that comes with it. After cleaning, feeding, and changing Peggy, Joe departs for early morning mass. At mass, he dedicates his prayers and intentions to healing, protecting, and comforting Peggy. Despite all the information the doctors have given him, telling him that she won't get better, telling him that this is the end, telling him there is no after this, Joe is filled with the strength and courage that was instilled in him by his Sicilian immigrant upbringing, and thus, Joe has hope. He loves Peggy. He can't even begin to imagine life without her, and thus, he prays for her every single day. After this, Joe makes his way over to the soup kitchen, or, as locals call it, some other place, referring to the statements restaurant owners would make to the less fortunate when they came begging for food. "We can't help you, just go to some other place." Peggy loved to volunteer here, and unable to do so now, Joe took it upon himself to pick up her shifts, serving her and their love in this special way. Today, at some other place, Joe is volunteering for 37 routes. He organizes, bags, and packages 37 individual meals, loading each of them into the car Peggy once drove, a 2001 Toyota 4Runner, and sets off. House by house, he hands each person their meals. As Joe said when walking into these government housings, the conversation might be the only one these people get all day, and they are all as kind and as generous as can be. I like to spend my time reconnecting with them, as a lot of them are Peggy and I's old customers from the store, and Peggy loved talking to them. Joe says goodbye, finishes the rest of his routes, and makes his way home. In between all of this, he stops by an elderly woman's house to give her Holy Communion, goes to midday Mass, dedicating yet another Mass to Peggy, and goes to the gym to run 4 miles on the treadmill, ensuring he remains strong and healthy for Peggy. Joe returns to their house by 11 a.m., waking up Peggy for lunch. He gently feeds her, carefully making sure she remembers to swallow after each bite. Peggy is the love of Joe's life, and she has been since they first met. Life without her is unimaginable, and while she's not gone yet, every fiber of his being loves her, mourns her, and grieves his memories with her. This grief, this morning routine, is the undying strength of his love persevering. This disease has taken away his wife, her memories, and their life together, but it could never take away his love. As Thoreau said, "There is no remedy for love, but to love more."